try to figure out like the best route. So like, say people are really mad about parking, like you want those people at an open forum about parking and not just like a general like, tell me every complaint you have about the university, or something like residence hall life, or we can even do like an open forum town hall style for something like homecoming, because that is something we want to change and make better. So I think it would look like not necessarily like us up here telling answers and making decisions, but students that are like in charge of important things. So like say it's an environmental one, you get people that are in charge of big environmental organizations on campus. You get some administrators that can help field questions, answer anything that people have, as well as come up with like listen to criticism and say, here's the person that you need to talk to, or I will work on that. So that's kind of what we're hoping for in just increasing like student administration relationship and student like people and execs on different places on campus relationships.
Which issues would you like to tackle first?
That's kind of one of the things that we really want to look for with the open forums is there are definitely issues that I believe that ASUN we deem of high importance just because it's stuff that we deal with and they're really more or less our problems. And that's one thing that we'd really like to work on. We've already, this year's administration has already done a What's a Fix page, but something with the open forums is where we'd really like to see growth in that, where we think that some issues are our issues, but we'd really like to hear what issues are with the students and get their feedback. And with one of those, we all have our own individual platforms of things we like to improve, like communication, like connecting campus. So those things are where, those are our big, broad goals, but we'll all have our individual projects and individual goals that we'll all tackle. But we would like to really reach out to the students, come to the students, and hear from them. Because we are students, but that's one thing. Sometimes in the past, I feel like ASUN's gotten kind of trapped inside a bubble of only ASUN things. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel of what some organization's already doing a really great job, we'd rather partner with them and try and help them help them improve what they're already doing a great job with.
Right, and outside of the town hall meetings, what other ways would you improve communication with students?
One thing that we want to also take a nice look at is using Big Red Welcome, just kind of changing the setup of Big Red Welcome. Being a person who's involved in multiple organizations, it is like a holiday for me because everyone I know is a Big Red Welcome. And I truly enjoy that, but then I do realize that even when I went to Big Red Welcome as a freshman, it's really not efficient, and it's just really, you end up getting bombarded with a whole bunch of free stuff, even free stuff that you don't even really care about but want. You just get it and you're like excited about it, which is okay. However, changing that so that it's more consolidated, more impactful, less of a bombardment, and if it's going to be a celebration, we should make it a celebration. But right now, I feel like Big Red Welcome doesn't really know what it wants. So that's one way that we can do that. Also, we are currently going through the rebranding process of ASUN as a whole through Yacht Club, and this is something that will definitely help us not only rebrand, but look at how we communicate with students. I know that before I was involved in ASUN, I really didn't care to follow ASUN or read through what motions have passed, what legislation's passed, because it's just something I really didn't care about. And going through the rebranding process, once installation and that process begins, we can really look at how we actually get information that students care about out, rather than just what we're doing now, which we can do greatly improve.
Okay, and several times you mentioned that ASUN is kind of involved. Oh, now we'll take a question from Lima, Sweden, a few minutes ago. As three Greek students, how does your executive team intend to better connect with non-Greek students on campus?
One of the ways that we think we can do that right away is by changing that homecoming. Right now, it's very Greek-centric. If you ask a non-Greek how they get involved in homecoming, my guess is they would know. So right off the bat, beginning of the year, ASUN's big thing they put on is only Greek-centric. So by taking a hard look at that and how we can better improve that, we think that we can get the ball rolling to make ASUN seem not just like a Greek or another arm of a Greek organization, but really working to use the open appointments that we don't have filled, kind of making a concerted effort to go outside of our realm, heading over to Jack McDonald Multicultural Center and passing on applications there, and talking to people in Massa and APU and just other organizations that aren't necessarily represented at the time, and really making that effort to not necessarily even meet them halfway, meet them through the worst way. So the effort that they need to put in is minimal, just so that they know we are trying to represent you. And then one of the things that we have more specific is changing the way, changing the time FCLA is chosen. FCLA is a great way for freshmen to get involved in ASUN. And I think it's not only the 20 people that are involved, their friends will know more about ASUN, but it's so early on that if you don't have that system that Greek House does, where I was in this, you should apply for this, you might not know about the application at the time. So we think that moving back, even 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks it won't greatly hurt FCLA, but it will help us get a wider and more diverse pool of applicants. So.
We also talked a little bit more about reaching out to residence halls specifically and getting them out on floors with a lot of freshmen, maybe learning community, something like that, so we can get more of the non-Greek students on campus as well applying, because we'd love a ton of people applying for FCLA, because that's a great way for them to hear about ASUN. And then even if they don't get into the 20 on FCLA, they know about ASUN, and there's a ton of other positions that they can apply for.
All right, let's go on to something more philosophical. All three of you have responded to this question. The viewpoint of student government at university is what can it offer students?
Sure. When I think of student government, it really is a complex system. In the past, a lot of basically it gives you a title and motive to make a change that every student already could make, but then being a part of student government, really it makes an obligation of yours. It kind of becomes a little bit of who you are and your identity. So in that sense, if there's something you want to change as a student, it kind of gives you the little kick in the butt to kind of say, you know what, instead of complaining about it, how about I talk to someone who can help you fix this problem? And I think that's one of the biggest things that student government really does and help with, is instead of, by and large, almost everyone that's part of it, from top to bottom, instead of being apathetic about something and complaining about it, it provides a motive to go out and make a positive change for the university that we go to. And I think that's one of the biggest importances of student government in general, is to do that. And I think just overall hearing the little things, like when I just, for instance, when I did this as my center project this year, was everyone talked about how there's nowhere to study after late at night, or how the library closes. So went over to talk to Dr. D. Nancy Bush, and after we had about a 15-minute conversation, she agreed to open the library for an extra hour until 1 a.m. That doesn't completely fix every problem every student has, but it's an example of what student government can do to make their lives better for students.
Yeah, I'm also a big proponent of servant leadership, and I think that's really applicable to student government. Our purpose is to serve students, and so I think we can do that in a variety of manners, and that's why we have so many committees in ASUN, which is really where the bulk of the work of ASUN happens. I mean, you have people that are working on your student fees and making sure that they're not going astronomically high, but also making sure that we aren't paying nothing and there's nothing happening on campus. They're the people that are trying to make the decision of what's best for the students. And sometimes that's not always the most fun decision, but we look for things that are going to affect students positively, and we can be making changes on campus to make this campus better.
Yeah, I mean, if you really think about it, we're sitting in a building that was pretty much brought to campus because of student government pressure, union. didn't have a union until the ASUN president really pushed the administration and really some border regions and said, like, students care about this and they could use this. And here we are now. We have one of the best unions I've ever been in. But we also give, like Grant said, we give students that opportunity to make that change. Be it a small change like getting drinking fountains that are easier to fill up your water bottle because it'll help save water, or recycle bins, or a new app on campus that will keep people safe. There's just tons of different opportunities that students have to really make those changes, and it really does kind of embody certain leadership, because a lot of those things that you do, you won't see the benefits of. If we do change an MIP policy, that's not something that necessarily is going to affect me, but it is going to affect thousands of students that come after me. So it gives you that opportunity to really make that mark on the university and kind of give back to it instead of, like Grant said, just complaining all the time.
All right, as you just mentioned, given that amount of your platforms focus on student drinking behavior, do you feel the campus is a drinking problem?
I think a lot of campuses have a drinking problem, and one of the things that we have with it is the kind of conversations we have about it. We don't condone underage drinking, but we're not going to be foolish enough to think that we can't. We can only do so much to curtail it, and then we have to kind of contain the problem and make it so that when things do happen, they are as less risky as possible. We had this conversation the other day about how it's kind of the abstinence versus safe sex debate when it comes to alcohol. You can only say don't drink so much, and students aren't going to drink. But I think if you go back and look at the facts from August and September, we had 12 instances of students going to detox compared to last August and September, which is 76. So those numbers might be a little off, but it's around there. So we have policies in place that are just trying to curtail it. We're trying to make it as less risky of a campus as possible.
All right, this one's coming here from Councilman Rowe. This is the top 3 unions you've been in.
The top 3 unions.
The top 3 unions.
The top one, clearly, University of Nebraska. I've been in the UNO union. I wasn't a big fan. No offense to UNO, but it doesn't really have the feel to it. It doesn't have this crib, fireplace in the background feel. And I think those honestly might be the only 2 unions I've ever been in. So it is first on a very short list. So.
Another one row tweet. If your own senators aren't showing up in this open forum, why should we think anyone should show up to town halls?
That is a good question, and I'll admit I'm a little bit disappointed in some of the senators. And I think it's something that we'll have to look at with the people that we've talked to and really kind of, kick them in the butt and get them going. But it kind of just shows that we do have a bit of a uphill battle that we're fighting. Student apathy is definitely something that does plague student government, and but I think that the leaders that we have, once elected, will really kind of show that they go beyond not showing up tonight.
Yeah, I also want to reiterate that our slate, we've got about as solid of a group as you can compile. Just because they're not here, they could be doing other things. And this event was a little bit rushed. We haven't done the best time of promoting it ourselves, and it wasn't something that they've known about for too terribly long. So, as disappointed I am in the numbers, in all reality, it's not like a tragedy. We can work through this. And it's just really, really important to, I think, realize too that a lot of the experienced senators are either here or doing something that matters to them personally. And right now, a a lot of the incoming senators, especially the new ones, they really don't know what all this actually means. So it's just part of the process where you're running for something, but even then, I remember when I ran last year, I didn't go to the debates. I did what I needed to do, and if they asked me to do something, I did it. But that's pretty much all I did. And then I didn't really, I knew like definition of what I was actually doing. It's like, oh yeah, I'm running for Senate. These are my duties. But I really didn't know too much outside of that, and I think it's just part of the process. So one thing we really want to just focus on is we want to come to the students, and because this is a demonstration that students aren't always going to come forward to you, so we want to try and meet students where they are rather than the opposite, because we've seen firsthand that that's not very effective.
Okay, and seeing that Ignite is the only party running, will you take any steps to ensure that there's more interest in ASUN?
I think we've mentioned before, like just reaching out, especially to freshmen, looking at that big red welcome and looking at how we present ourselves with ASUN. So part of that is the rebranding process that's currently happening. Of course, I would love to see other parties here tonight, and I would love to see other things. Like I'm a business major, I'm a fan of competition, but that's not the case, and we can't change that right now, but we can change that in the future. And so that's going to look like working with the Yacht Club and the rebranding of ASUN. It'll look like, the forums that we talked about, as well as reaching out more. And that's going to be through communications. And I think we have some great people on our slate that are good in marketing and communications already on campus, and we're hoping to just utilize their abilities. And because that's not necessarily like a strong suit of the three of us to work in communications, but there are other people on our slate that are.
And I just want to kind of build on what Christine was talking about. I think that, and President Reznичek mentioned this in the Daily Nebraskan article, that last year was an exhausting campaign. I can tell that if you talk to anybody that was involved, even people that were involved, it was exhausting. It was intense. People lost friendships, I'm going to be honest, just because of some of the things that came out of it. That coupled with some of the instances we've had this year at ASUN, it can kind of turn people away. So what we think our job is as an administration coming in is kind of refocus what ASUN is about, and kind of go on that first date with the students and kind of show them what we want to do and what we can provide them. So doing a better job at talking about some of the stuff we've already done, as well as some of the stuff that they can do if they want to get involved as well. So.
Okay, and given the discussion surrounding diversity on campus and within ASUN, how will you make sure that Ignite discusses cultural diversity and awareness at UNN?
One thing that we are planning on putting into place immediately is a sensitivity training. We went through a sensitivity training to the issues this year, and kind of left with the thought of like this is something we should do every year. Even the students that felt like they didn't necessarily have an issue with cultural sensitivity or just sensitivity about people in general and others, they came away with something. So we're going to definitely put that as one of the first things that all the new senators experience is that sensitivity training. And everyone comes away with something with that, as well as right now, like it's obvious to anyone. If you walk in that Senate door, you pretty much just see a group of middle class students, and most of them are Greek at that. So one thing that we really try to challenge ourselves on is getting out of our circles when you compile our slates, so that we didn't just have who was comfortable. And in that sense, so we could really try and make sure that we don't have a bunch of the same awesome people, but really try and diversify that. And I think we did a better job this year on slates. And the nice thing about not having another party running is most of these people that we've compiled that are diverse, have diverse backgrounds, doesn't get their spots instead of being ousted by another candidate who also does great things. But it's just, you don't actually, some things are hard for people to experience unless they're actually seeing it. That didn't really exactly come out the way I wanted it to. But what I mean is, like, if you don't have someone sitting next to you, it's easy for you to be ignorant about a certain issue. So we're trying to make sure that that is not the case in this upcoming Senate. And then, as we also said, we're going to bring the hammer down a little bit more on homecoming with rules and make sure that people are following the rules and that we are very clear about that. And also, we'd really like to get MASA, ABU, Unite, and the multicultural fraternities and sororities more involved with that, because right now their involvement's quite bad.
And can you explain why you think homecoming is a way to access the non-Greek community? If that doesn't work, what other options for?
Typically, we think homecoming is just, it's supposed to be a celebration of the university. And right now, it's a Greek celebration of the university, and it's a Greek celebration of a Greek university. We think that by really restructuring how we do that, and just kind of taking a look at some of the things that are no longer bringing the university together, we can really tap into those non-groups. But say we get a committee together, we talk about things, and nothing changes. By making that effort through the appointments, because right now, if you go to the ASUN office and look, there's some positions that aren't filled. Once I think it's a 30-day period, those positions are at large and people can apply. Once that happens, we have the flexibility to go and talk to people that are not Greeks, people that might have been interested in ASUN, but maybe they were a little weary about the whole election process. They didn't want to. They didn't want to have to go through an intense election, or maybe they thought they were going to have time, or thought they were going to be busy when they had time, or they just have a newfound interest in ASUN. We could use those opportunities to go beyond just the Greek community.
Okay, why don't you talk about your plan with having centers have their own projects and explain how they can be improved and accelerated?
So one of the expectations of senators in ASUN is that they complete a personal project throughout their term. And I think one of the issues with this past term that we've had is that you had 3 different parties running, and it was so hard that it was just like, let's just get there kind of thing. There's no thought about what would happen after they got a Senate seat. And so I think that's something where, like, as soon as we talk to people and say, hey, like, we've heard you're doing great things on campus, we want you to run with us. We said we want you to have an idea about what you want to do. So if you get elected, as soon as you get elected, you can start working on a project instead of waiting weeks to figure something out and then waiting more weeks to ask students, and then summer comes and then we forget about it. And we don't want those things to happen. We want students to start working right away on things. And so I know, like, our senators are working on their projects, and they're working on coming up with very detailed outlines of their projects and what they want to do, so that if they do get elected next week, they can start right away as soon as the installation goes.
We're trying to encourage our students to find something that they're passionate about, because if you go and look at the Senate now, the people that really have pushed it above and beyond what everybody else is doing, it's because they found something that they're passionate about, something they really want to change. So what's nice is that ASUN is such a broad organization that you can really find something that you're passionate about regardless of who you are. So once they find that particular project, they're going to be more likely to take the extra step and get the ball rolling on something instead of just come to meeting every once in a while.
Okay, and finally, after you guys have sorted your entire term, what do you hope you've accomplished in one sentence? One sentence.
Might be a long-winded sentence, but
Like 3 thoughts.
repeat the question one more time so I can think about this one.
In one sentence, what do you hope that Ignite will accomplish?
Increased campus. I hope Ignite increases ASUN's. I'm trying to think of my words too. At the end of our term, I hope that Ignite ASUN, as important as it is to the university, I hope that at the end of our term, students are excited about ASUN and realize how important it is to the university, because we do a lot of things that students should and do here.
For me, I think Kevin was almost there, but we had a few stumbles. For me, it was that I hope that we can have the average student feel closer to the way about ASUN in the same way as I do.
We hope that we protect students and safety, connect students to campus, and that our science projects are fulfilled so students are better. The life of students are better on campus. That's our goal in a nutshell.
All right, finally, how would you fight for the students and pressure the administration to tackle rising costs of education and student housing?
I think a lot of that's done through, would be done through my position as a student regent. And looking at other universities and how they either are, keeping costs down, or how, by not keeping their costs down, they're being hurt by it. Through the government liaison committee, we can work with state legislators looking at how the tuition freeze has benefited university students and how it's benefited the university, and see if that's something that we can, not necessarily keep it at freeze, but try to keep it from, increasing substantially. And I think that housing can be done by just making it more worth the money that you're going to put in, because housing, everything is getting more expensive, but what students don't want to see is their housing bill going up, but what they're getting out of from that bill remain the same. So making sure that everything in the residence halls is always working. It's not old. It's all up to date. Making sure Wi-Fi is great and everything. Just kind of improving that, because it's going to go up, but making it continually worth the cost.
All right, that's all of our questions. Let's open it up to the audience. Anyone want to ask anything?
We have 2 of our senators here, as well as 5 or 6 people that are on our Senate but not in Senate positions.
And then there was probably 4 or 5 senators that came and then had to leave.
Anyone else?
We'll have to double check officially.
I'd say 28 to 30, but not the exact number. We can get that exact number to you, or it's on the day show. We have 1 graduate student, and I believe there's 6 total, so there's 5 graduate students. CEHS has 1 spot. We have 1 candidate that is doing that has come to us after the filing deadline, but they are a CPA student. So while it says on there that we have 4, we actually do have a 5th person that is associated with it tonight. But then nursing is open, as well as just some positions in the advisory board as well.
All right, what do you guys give us your closing statements?
First, I just want to thank everyone that showed up. Like it's been said, we don't really have that great of attendance, and it partially can be due to student apathy, but I think it also has to do with the fact that we are, it's a single party race. It's tough for the average student to get excited about not having a choice, really. But we really want students to log on to MyRed, a week from yesterday, and cast your vote, not just for us, but for their student fees. Because a lot of students might not realize that what's lost in the shuffle of the night, age, revise, sense, all that stuff that they do have the chance to know other students and they vote whether or not to fund a team. They vote whether or not they think the money should go to the register. So voting is important regardless of whether there's one party or two. But I'm glad the people that showed up today did. And regardless of whether the people are here or not, we're going to work for the students that are here and the students that aren't here because we think and we know ASU is extremely important. We want to show the rest of the university.
Thanks so much.
I'll have to work on that one sentence. And 4 minutes. Yeah.